my okay, those pickles were actually hotter than I thought. Okay, I'll be fine. Hi, welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name is Adrian,
And I'm Alex.
and today we have a special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tanner, and I got brought here because I impaled one of the hosts.
That is true, and which one you'll never know. Actually, if you look up our Facebooks, it's really easy. There's a picture of it.
I have a lot of
Of your
questions.
impalement, or?
Yeah, I commissioned it. Pinalism, just a lot of dots. It's quite impressive. But also, it's not the only person you've impaled. You've impaled many people. I've brought you to impale people.
That's I've poked many people. That's why they call me the poker.
All right, Alex,
God.
we'll stop speaking in riddles for a second there.
No, I understand what poking is. Like, I'm
She
an
was in
adult.
college, Adrian.
Yeah.
When a man and a man play D&D.
Yeah, no, we're good.
No,
I
hold
know-
up. I'm not finished. Sometimes people are assholes and you're like, I don't want to be an asshole to my party. So you hire a hitman. And this is the hitman.
And you
Oh.
pull out each other's swords, and then like that's where it goes. Like one thing leads to another. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, we stabbed.
Just
Yeah.
a couple of bros.
Just a couple bros just stabbing other bros. All right. Yeah, so back in the day, Tanner was my DM. And this was like freshman to a little bit before you left. And it was off and on when we played together. But it was still a fun time that I remembered. It got crazy at sometimes when we just didn't play D&D. And I don't know what happened that one night. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Should be crazy.
Man, I can't even fully remember if you were there. Which shenanigans? Oh wait, no. Oh, I
It wasn't
remember.
that one.
Okay.
It was not the one that
I
you're
got it.
thinking of. It's probably another one.
Oh Jesus.
But yeah, I was there for like at least one, maybe two, but definitely one shenanigans that was like someone just like came, hey, don't tell my boyfriend I was here. And I'm like, okay, this is what this night's gonna be. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
It was pretty spicy. So yeah, we go way
God.
back.
A reputation on the street.
Definitely. But yeah, we played D&D. I was part of like 2 or 3 campaigns of yours. One was like
Yeah, they sort of have that nature of like falling apart as campaigns do, unfortunately.
well, that last one you got what, hired or graduated, one of the two, and you left, and that was fine, you know. The other ones I don't know. We
Was
all
the
worked-
last one the winter campaign?
no, the last one I think your now wife had a centaur boy toy, that was like Raph from iZombie.
Oh my god, yes.
Yes, that was my last one with you. The winter campaign was the one when we were all at Sam's West, and that was with
Ages ago.
Aegis. Yeah, I don't know if you want to name.
I've
names.
actually continued the winter campaign. I restarted it here with other people, and I had 2 different groups I was DMing simultaneously the same campaign, and it diverted in wildly different directions for each due to players
Yeah,
and their choices, and in general, just like one of them, like there's like a Queen I can't even remember the real names on, like Elvira, and one of the groups is like that's Queen Ivanka. And everybody that I spent so hard either naming or that the module that was like the core of that experience named, they twisted into some sort of lampoon of a character. There was a really cool, I'm sure some module writer out there was very happy to make Tenpenny Tacy a rogue half-orc woman who shacked up with a bunch of bandits in the middle of the woods and then ends up joining the party. But that party that I was DMing for renamed her Tasty, and subsequently Tasty Meat Flaps, which destroyed any sort of character development that character was going to experience the moment they got pigeonholed into being this bizarre femme fatale of the player's creation in their heads.
Yeah, the players will definitely do that shit. I've played Curse of Strahd, the beginning of it, 3 different times, and it's always been a different kind of response because people either gung-ho or very timid or very strategic. It's like it's really hard to pin them down. And I've had to like, oh, this is going to be the next encounter. No, they decide to spend the whole day being diplomatic, and then the next day, when diplomacy doesn't work, they go murder hobo. Sometimes it's rightfully murder hobo in that campaign setting, but
Please explain to me when it is okay to be a murder hobo.
when the what's it called, the Borge master starts putting people into jails and starting numbering houses and making everything very dreary, and anyone that's an outsider is going to be locked up and killed.
That sounds like a vengeful justice bringing hobo. Sort of a hobo with a shotgun situation.
Yes, very much so.
It's at least got a direction, a purpose.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I just don't know how to play when like the moral, his solo moral is not in line with the rest of the people's kind of semi other morals. Like they have their own directions, but like his is just like, let's not kill anyone. And I'm like, they've been killing children, but okay, let's like, I don't know.
Let's hear him out first. Maybe they had a reason.
Yeah. Maybe the children were possessed, or maybe the children just like wouldn't go to bed on time. I don't know.
Oh, now that's a fun idea for a campaign. Have every single villain doing horrific things, but they're actually justified. Like every single one of them has like really great reasons. And like the party only finds out halfway through.
That would be insane, like a mental gymnastics that I'd have to do to present it one way and have the reason underneath the sheets kind of thing. But it's something I'd be willing to do.
Or for that player, give them like Star Trek spells, like set fireball to stun.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Which kind of runs us back into our topic, homebrew. Making things or changing things when necessary. Alex,
It doesn't have to be necessary.
True. Alex, do you have
Yes.
any questions in mind? I do. I just want to bring you back into the fold.
I mean, look, I feel like you guys have been speaking English, and like I understand that there are words that are being said that I could potentially comprehend, but there's a lot just now. There's a lot.
Heard.
I was just trying to see how long you guys can make it a whole like double entendre, just continuously, and then murder hobos. So, I don't have anything specific. I am very interested to see where this goes. So, yeah, Adrian, you can ask all of your questions. I
Okay.
am here for the ride, evidently.
Well, just jump in whenever, okay? Interrupt us.
Thank you. It's my podcast too.
That's what I'm trying to get you. Listen. Next person can be someone you know, okay? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I just think
She's totally livid.
I'm furious. Can you not tell?
Okay, so I don't know. The double entendre stuff between me and Tanner are just like things that we feel comfortable with. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, it's because you've sword fought before.
Yes, we fought
know.
many battles together
Yeah.
against each other mostly. Very few on the same side.
Yeah, I feel like there was a couple on the same side.
Yeah. So we've had some fun. And I think one of the most interesting interactions was just like my character actually being like, he was a bard, so he did the OG, of course I'm gonna fucking hit on everything thing. So, and then that was like the first kind of RP interaction I've had between the dungeon master and myself that kind of led to something, which he gave me XP for making a witty quote towards my loot. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
All right.
At some point, you tried singing to distract someone or something like that, and you made a comment like that. And I think the lodge that was at is actually the one where Tasty is.
Oh.
Quote unquote.
See, I don't think we ever passed. We might have passed that. I'm not sure. I just remember sitting in that windowsill, singing and talking at the same time, and then
Yes,
falling
this
out.
is definitely the lodge.
Yeah, and then falling out the window, being stuck in the snow, and everyone battling it out up front while I get myself out of it. Real helpful guy. Couldn't get back into the windowsill. I was gnome or a halfling or something. Something small, I know that. But yeah, that was like my first interaction with RPing. Everything else between like my past games with my friends, like kind of my core group of friends when I hung out in college, ours was just like, let's battle this monster. Let's find the evil. Like, there was very little like, I am Hodor, the guy who only says Hodor, but I'm not saying it right now. Okay, that was a bad example, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. Like, I didn't do any voices.
No, I like Russian Hodor. I'm a fan and I'm here for it.
But yeah, that was my first real interaction because I don't think I did too well of the voices. It was just,
I still struggle with voices. I still get hyper nervous about it because I'm like, man, is this too much?
Yeah, no, I'm so bad at voices. My party was like, wait, who is this again? Like, because it's like two NPCs talking back to back, and I slightly changed the inflection just a little, like the tone, and they're like, wait, who's talking right now? I'm like, oh, fuck, it's this guy, it's this guy. So I've had problems before.
I've considered for online games getting a voice modulator. I've tested it out, and the few times I tried it, it always made things slightly less intelligible, which is like my accents, because anytime it goes Irish, it'll turn into like a Midwestern mom, and vice versa very quickly. And so it becomes a garbled mess.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, was that trap that you impaled me with that like kind of got stuck in my leg, was that homebrew or was that in the game?
Okay, so I believe in the module, I believe there may have been a trap there.
Okay.
Because the only reason I would have put a trap there is if I suspected a battle was coming up and I wanted to weaken you guys before you got there to make sure that it was actually difficult. But I think there was an explosive ice trap there. It impaling your leg, and it's helpful to know that that was like one of your first role playing, because I think we had just started playing. You hadn't played many sessions, because that area is right after the lodge where you fell out of the windowsill. That trap outright killed you. We were playing that, so that was 3-5.
Yeah.
And well, it's Pathfinder using 3-5 rolls. So if you hit negative your constitution, you died instantly. The trap killed you instantly. But you had just started playing, and I was like, I can't just kill this person outright and end their whole career out the gate. And so it was a situation of, how do I punish is not the right word, but how do you make consequences for a death but not wanting to kill somebody? And it's something I've started to implement more actively in a lot of the other campaigns, where I've just straight up told them, like, hey, if you want to do a divine intervention, if you are going to die, I'll give it like a 5% chance maybe to actually work. But you're not just going to bounce back and like go the next day. So with you, I had the ice enter into your body and not leave. It went, I believe it was an ice shard that went through your leg. And when you came back to, you were in snow. You could move in snow terrain normally, I think was the balance I wanted to make, because I wanted it to be sort of a pro and a con.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were slowed on every terrain except for snow, maybe, and you couldn't be in too warm of an area or the icicles started melting and you would die. So it was kind of like preserving you while the ice shard was in you. That whole thing was homebrew. The trap was supposed to just go off and do damage. And I inserted more stuff to keep you alive and give you an interesting mechanic, which in that campaign, there's enough snow where it was beneficial enough times.
Mm-hmm.
And
so let me jump in for a second. You turned him into Olaf. Is that what I'm getting? Is that he was Olaf?
essentially,
Okay.
I mean, if you bisect his gnome into 3 pieces and like do a song and dance, he's not going to come back together. But the rest is very Olaf like.
I mean, I
Okay.
was a singer. I was a bard. So like that's
That's true. Oh my
this is
gosh.
way
I'm
before.
I'm I'm gonna call Disney right now and demand my rights because I believe that was before the first Frozen. So I think I'm due some royalties from my personal IP.
I didn't know I died. I don't remember that. Did you
Well,
say
because
that
I
I was?
didn't tell
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't tell you. I just rolled damage and you had I mean I don't remember what level you are at, but
It was.
I knew it outright killed you and I switched it and I was like, this isn't going to kill them.
This is like mind blowing. I thought like, oh, I got hit by a trap, whatever. I didn't know it
No,
killed me. I knew it
you
did damage.
died.
Holy shit.
Just no one knew.
Yeah, no one knew. This is. Oh my
There was
god.
some mime. It's like the end of The Sixth Sense, except there's no Bruce Willis. There's just a very short person with eyes sticking out of their leg, but the rest of it's the same.
I'm walking
There
around
was
like I own the place.
there was a very similar incident. I can't remember if it was before that or after that I also really enjoyed. It was Kiefer, who also played with us at the time,
Hmm.
that fell into a ravine, like with water at the bottom, and was there's very specific swimming checks in Pathfinder, like so I knew exactly like how often he was coming up and like how much he sank based off of his rolls, and it was stormy and it wasn't going well, and it was like 10 rounds of him fighting for his life and occasionally getting air and then sinking back down while the others couldn't really do a lot. They were like trying to get to him, and he ended up straight up drowning like and dying that way. But he rolled divine intervention and got like a 96 or something. And he was brought back in much the same way with the ice in the snow area with the element that had killed him. And so he was sort of like a river creature after that could only breathe water. So all of a sudden his death was turned into that character can now go underwater and be fine. The issue was he could no longer breathe air,
That's
which for a
wicked.
character who's supposed to be roving and mapping the landscape wasn't gonna fly. But he was a cleric or a druid. One of them he had a cantrip create water, and so they carted him around in like some horse trough until they fashioned a leather like water skin that went around his neck gills that he could create water into to freshen up his oxygen supply.
That's I don't know if that was the same campaign. I feel like I
It was
remember.
a different campaign.
Okay, okay.
But I can't remember if it was right after that or right before that.
It might
Because
have.
it may have been the same campaign that Krista, my wife, gained a centaur boy.
Oh,
Man.
boy,
Rather.
man. Was that the one we fucked with the deck of many things?
Yes.
And that's why I did the boy man for a session because I did something stupid and pulled a lot
Oh
of
yeah, you
cards.
like trapped yourself in a castle far away or something.
Yeah, no, I got a castle and then my soul left, so we put it in the castle.
Oh, because you drew 2 cards, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That,
So I guess I have a habit of killing characters and then going, well, we should bring them back, but it should be like give them a real Achilles heel while giving them something fun to play with, I guess, so that they're not completely screwed. And the fun thing with the water skin in the neck,
yeah.
we didn't get to explore the ice in your leg as much. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't another. I think y'all stayed out in that winter area for so long that like before eventually we couldn't play anymore on that campaign for whatever reasons scheduling.
Yeah.
We didn't really get to see the consequences of you having to like try to be indoors with others while your ice leg is melting and you're dying. But with the other one, he made that water skin and it was fine. But even in the module, there was an area of thorns that was like you walked into it and it did all sorts of damage just from the stabbing of the thorns, and so it just punctured holes all into his the water skin around his neck, and he just starts suffocating in the middle of the plains. as the party tries to sort out what to do.
That's I don't know. I think it's awesome. It's also like wicked. I don't know.
It's
uh
definitely evil, and I mean I think I don't it is fun to do the slightly evil thing. In the other version of that campaign that I recently started running, I had a character, he constantly is asking for Ring of the Ram. He played old school D&D like back in the day, and I think he had one and was really attached to it.
yeah.
And so he kept wanting one, and they went to some magic shops in the town there they were in before they were going out. And I mean, I think it's just a ring that you wear that has a ram on it, and it's like a force push. It does so much damage and pushes somebody back. And none of the shops that they came to had one. And I did some rolls, so like I gave it a percentage, and did a D100, be like, okay, does somebody have this magic ring that he wants to buy?
Uh-huh.
No one did. And eventually, because he wanted it so bad, I had a guy approach him in the middle of like, a market and say, hey, you want a Ring of the Ram? And he goes, I'll give it to you for free. And he took it and he put it on. And I can't remember if it was after he put it on or before that the man told him that if he takes it, he will lose someone dear to him. It may have been after, but don't accept magic rings from strangers in the market, I guess it would be the moral of the story before we get to it.
And for free, you know?
And for free. Like, yeah, like if you're in the middle of a market and they're selling it, that's one thing. But it was like, this is for free. And I don't think there was any pausing. They just went for it. And it was like, maybe 2 months later, like maybe even longer, before they were somewhere else fighting on top of a tower with, she keeps coming back, but Tasty. And Tasty from the lodge. And she, they had already gotten really attached to this NPC, and they're fighting somebody on the top of a high tower, and they're about to finish off maybe they just finished off the big bad, and then I look at him and I say, your ring goes off, and he goes, what? And he goes, I didn't activate it. I'm like, oh, this isn't you, it's doing it itself, and it just throws Tasty off the tower.
Oh my
And just
god.
instantly kills her. And I was like, I told you what that ring did. He never even tried to like really get it removed, because like once it was on, it was stuck on. But
Yeah.
I figured the next reaction, the moment he knew he couldn't take the ring off in the middle of the market, was he was going to remove his finger and get it put back on. But that didn't happen. I was like, okay, it's staying on, I guess. And then it happened, and it straight up killed a character like I said it would. They ended up collecting her and resurrecting her at the end of several other sessions and finding someone who could do it. But it was fun to give them, again, something that they wanted, but with consequences.
Oh my god. I totally remember why you're one of my favorite dungeon masters. You are sadistic and I love it. It's not like pure incarnate evil, like I'm gonna fuck up your characters all the fucking time. You're like, you do something stupid, there's gonna be stupid punishments, Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, kind of thing.
I don't think I've ever seen myself as much as that until about now, as I'm going down like the list of things that I've done, that I realize that I do that. Because it was that same character that he would make the joke that he cast Fireball every time they opened a door.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. And I said, I even told him, I was like, if you keep doing that, I'm just going to accept it as something you actually say that happens. And they opened a door, and there was a child in the room, and he made the joke. And it went off, and I think they ended up like healing the kid back up, because by then we were playing 5e rolls, so she just went unconscious. But he just like roasted this 9-year-old.
Yes, that's a good way to stop this like train halt of your game. Just like, okay, haha, it's gonna happen for real one time.
It will occur.
Yes.
But me being sadistic is why you got me to guess DM.
Yeah, it's because I wasn't evil. I just like, I love my characters, and I stupidly said, yes, you could play this banned class, and I didn't know why until it became very abundantly clear. Everyone was like going down except for him, and he kept staying alive, and he had so much HP, and he had like 3 times a day he could reform his shield, his like meat shield. It was this like eidolon that he could like fuse with, and it was like essentially like meat armor that he could just fuck around with people. So it replaced all his physical stats. So he just mid maxed, and then he was just maxed everything because of his ability. So it just became this like stupid thing, and I'm like, this just feels so broken, and I know now why it's banned, and I'm never making that mistake again. But how do I remove it? I'm like, I don't see. I want to be fair. I want to be able to like say, hey, I'm gonna have this kind of, I'm gonna like throw a bunch of people at you, and then that's what's gonna happen. But I was afraid that I was gonna kill everybody else before I finally got to him. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss for words, and I'm like, I don't know how I came to you and say, please, can you help me? Um, but yeah, I said, I think I just like I told somebody the problem, and maybe like, hey, I can fix that or something. I don't know. I don't know what happened exactly, but you guest DM'd, and yeah, I don't know. You want to like kind of go what happened through that whole kind of interaction?
So what I remember was you came and said that like your players thought you were too mean, and when at the end of the day you let them do quite a lot, which I try to be as fair as I can, though. I mean, everybody has a balance and not everybody agrees with it. So I was like, I mean, I'll go hard on them, because at the time I think maybe we were even playing a campaign where we agreed on really harsh rules of like survival and eating every, all the week, because they were out in the wilderness. It's like you got to find food or you're going to starve to death.
Yeah.
Like a hardcore survivalist thing. And so maybe that's how we got onto it. But yeah, I hopped into DM a session with them, and instantly, like Alex, I don't think he had fully understood what he was going to get into. Because the first thing I remember doing is I quickly scooped them up with like a low level devil that like invited them into the room, and they did like the typical, which I mean, when you're a player character, it's like, and there's like a big bad, you're gonna mouth off because you can, and because there's no consequences half the time, and it's fun to be quippy. But the devil wasn't playing games, and so he just started filling the room with water, and they couldn't get out. Like they're half the room, and so they're just like sitting in this cube of water inside the room, drowning. And he just tells them like, I'm gonna need you to sign this contract that you're gonna do this job for me. And then like was holding it up to the edge of the water for them to sign, and they couldn't. He was like waiting for the sign, and I was like, sign it, and they're like, okay, I sign it. I was like, do you have a pen? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, then he's looking, he's waiting, and he was very clear, like they couldn't even sign it. And one of his players, like the exact words that came out of his mouth were, oh, I get it. He's an asshole. But they ended up agreeing, obviously, to do whatever job this devil wanted them to do. And at the end of it, they got the reward. And I, again, did a curse in disguise or blessing in disguise. Like they were put into a situation where they had to lay an NPC on top of one of the player characters. And this is one little mechanics from a book, technically, of nailing spikes through someone's eyes into another person behind them. That one aspect I nabbed from a book, but I had them do it. So I was like, you have to hold your friend down and put spikes through his eyes or I'll kill you all. And they did it, which is wild that there wasn't more. I guess by that point, they understood that the devil was going to rip through them. So they actually did it. They actually put spikes through one of the other player characters' eyes after passing through a random NPC, but it didn't kill them. They then could see metal. They were perfectly fine, but they could see metal, but nothing else. They were blind, but could see through. Like if you had a wooden wall and something metal was behind it, they could see it. But there's trace amounts and amount of metal and everything. People have iron in their blood, so I was like, you can effectively see for about 40 feet like normal. And you're blind past that. But if you're in a city, you can probably see through the walls. Now, I don't know if they retired that character or just undid things after that.
I think
Because I remember he was like, he's useless now.
Yeah.
I was like, I think it's pretty cool. I want to see through walls. All of that being said, I don't think as a general rule you should railroad characters into murdering one another or putting spikes through their eyes or in general creating an antagonistic environment between the DM and the players. But this was a special case of good cop, bad cop that may not have been the best idea to begin with, but it did create an interesting scenario.
I loved it. It helped me. So, I do.
Well, yeah, that's the point of good cop, bad
Yeah,
cop.
yeah,
Good cop
exactly.
looks good.
So, like, as someone who just didn't understand how to properly kind of address that by being upfront with, like, okay, so we tried this kind of band class, it was a little broken, and I think that it's hard for us to play equally if we have this class continuing. I should have had that addressed, and then we could have, me and the player could have decided that. But back then, my communication skills were pretty shit. So,
Well, that was the case of all of your players thought you were too mean, which was not the case at all, which is really why we had to bring in bad cop.
Yes, truly. So yeah, there needed to be like another DM to see like I'm trying my best or something. But I did appreciate the help, and it helped me figure out what I wanted to do with that kind of thing. And that party kind of ended because of something else I did later on, because of it was just tough. Sometimes I got stressed during college, and it was just one of those fallout kind of things. But yes, I'm happy that Tanner was there to assist me for sure. But yes, as the main DM, you shouldn't be doing that.
No,
That's how
bad
you.
general advice.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, back to the rest of the episode. Yeah.
So, like, we get to this point of DMing. Like, what about you and your life? And I don't mean this like offensively at all. Like, is it on some level it has to be cathartic, right? So like, fuck with these people, but like, Adrian is so nice and just wants to help his players grow, and we want to develop relationships. But from what I'm getting, you just want to fuck shit up, and I'm totally here for that. But like, how? And like, how did you get here? And like, why are we here? If you've
Are you
done any
asking who
analysis,
hurt me?
I am asking who hurt you, but I do really like it. It's really interesting, and I'm really like ready to fuck it up. So like, I'm more chaotic evil than anything. Maybe not evil, maybe chaotic neutral. Definitely chaotic neutral.
This podcast
But
is chaotic neutral. That's all I know.
yeah, but like, let's talk about it. Who hurt you?
I think it's a little, I don't know. I don't think I get. It is fun. It is fun to do it, and I think the reason it is fun, probably a little cathartic, just to like absolutely ruin someone as the DM, is because as the DM, you always have these like grand ideas of like, oh, this is the beautiful story I'm crafting, and it's like almost a player responsibility to be like. It's an overplayed meme almost at this point, but like you're trying to direct Lord of the Rings on your side of the DM screen, and everyone else is acting in Monty Python, and so you get to this point where you're like, stop it. So it is fun to like just absolutely ruin someone, but at the same time, I try to reward when people are like, I try to give them fun things to play with. Because like the spike in the leg for him at the end of the day was saving his life and allowing him to move around much faster than everybody else. But I try to hand out XP. I'm just trying to defend myself. It's like I'm on trial and I'm like, I promise I donate to charity. I'm sorry about that bus full of orphans though. That was I was having a bad day.
I'm not mad about this bus full of orphans. I'm just, so it's such a different view. So just, I guess, walk me through just a general campaign storyline, because it sounds like you've got really great moments, but I'm curious as to like, how do those moments connect with each other? Is it very Lord of the Rings, or is it just like chaos all the time?
That would vastly depend on the campaign, I guess. So like those little moments are definitely, they tend not to be too worked into the story beats. Technically, the ice in the leg could be, because there's a lot of ice creatures around that I think it's been so long since I've read the lore of that one. Like the evil queen put a sliver of ice in their hearts, and that turned them evil somehow, and like corrupted them for her eyes purposes. So it could like work with the overall theme. Same thing with like the river guy. It works into the theme, but it's rarely that these random little moments where they're dying are. This was a scripted story beat that I was going to hit, because I think I tried to do some very interesting Lord of the Rings, like, oh, we're going off on a grand adventure to defeat the big bad, or something like that, while introducing a little levity or random side quests in there. So I don't think it's like the campaign as a whole is like a practice and punishment for all of us, because that's not fun for anybody. But I used to do modules a lot more, but I found that I don't know, I got a little bored, especially because I was doing that one Reign of Winter campaign with 2 groups, and it was like I kept wanting to introduce new things to it, and just sticking to the script is a little harder to improv because you can't redirect it.
Yeah.
And so it diverged wildly because I tried different ideas with each, and one of the groups just ended up being the villains. Like, there was just I could tell they weren't too interested in taking down this bad witch. They were just not invested. So when it got to like one of the showdowns near one of the ends of the miniature arcs, I just like asked the witch, like, "Hey, you guys want to work for me?" So now they have like, it's probably like 10 sessions long for each mini arc inside the story, where they get put on a different part of the planet and help her open winter portals to turn the world into sort of a Mr. Freeze Eternal Winter situation. But
That's
I don't know if that answered the question or if I've just rambled.
Hey Alex, did it answer? I'm just entertained with Tanner's games.
No, I think it by not answering it, it feels like it answered it, right? So like on some level, having the campaign, you're like, okay, cool, but with your chaotic energy, you need something a little bit extra. And it is listening to your players. If your players don't want to defeat the Ice Queen, all right, awesome. Let's have them fuck shit up with everyone else. So like maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe you just attract that chaotic energy and you have those player characters who are just ready for that. And I guess my like question would be, if that's the case, then maybe it's that you have that chaotic energy and you attract that chaotic energy, and that's what brings like those types of players to you. And look, I'm here. Like, I'm ready to go play right now. Like, we can cut, and I want to go play, and I want to go fuck shit up, because I think it would be a lot of fun to, like, I don't know, kind of play that evil side of, like, oh, okay, cool. Or, like, there are real punishments if I'm just fucking around, right? I'm just shooting fireballs as soon as we open up the next door to, like, fight all of these people. And there's a child there. They're like, oh shit, I can't just be a dick and I can't just be a hero. Like, I have to actually think about it, which I think makes it a lot more fun for players to, like, I have to think through my stuff.
Yeah, and that one character wasn't actively shooting the fireballs. He just said it every time, which it became an issue of me, like, are you actually doing it? It always, like, pause the session where you're like, what is this actually happening? And I'm sitting there like my mind's going up like, does the firebow call off? What burns in here? I do probably attract a little bit of the chaos, but I mean, I don't know that I've again, maybe if it is I attract chaotic players, but I've never been part of a campaign where it's just like, yeah, this is normal. Everything that's happening is normal. And if anything, like if like the subreddits of all the D&D campaigns are anything to go by, very few D&D sessions are like, this is all completely normal and the story is going along as planned, because people do like set up shop and they're like, we're going to sell pineapples outside of Strahd's castle and we're going to lure him there with our juicy fruit, and when he comes to get his pineapple juice, we're going to jump him. Like, there's that sort of, I don't know, there's always at least one player that's just introducing that where it can derail things. Luckily with this new winter one, because I have half the one session I was doing, they're helping the queen, the other half they're going around stopping the portals. We'll do like the 10 session arc, and then it'll basically be like okay, this is the overall goal, but what do you guys want to do next? So I keep doing a poll of like, hey, what about gothic horror? What if we went to Transylvania and tried to turn that into a nice block? Like,
nice.
How do we feel about dinosaurs?
That's cool. Just taking that same theme and just, I want something else. I want new monsters. Let's play it in this playground for a bit and see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a little like, I think the term is like episode of the week or adventure of the week, or I know there's a tabletop game called Monster of the Week, and I think it's a play on that. But I think old TV shows used to do it, and The Mandalorian does it.
Absolutely.
For Star Wars, where he has like I am taking this baby somewhere, but it's just every episode literally is just an excuse to have him see a new planet. There's like a 40% chance it's going to be a desert because it's cheap to shoot in the desert. But every episode it's a new planet. They get to show some new creatures, do a new little story. Like it's just an excuse to just do a bunch of new stuff while carting around a small green baby.
Spoilers.
On
I'm
a
just kidding.
completely different note, because we were talking about, you said two words that are trigger words. The set design in Mandalorian is so fucking cool. If you have not seen the whatever Disney Plus just released about their investor day nonsense, you can skip through everything in the Star Wars section except for the Mandalorian set, and they have a conversation about the new technology. But they have these like studio sets, and they're small, but there's a giant screen, and it's not a green screen, it's like an actual like giant computer or theater screen, and so you can see them in like the real life world, but it's not like a giant green screen. And I just think that's so cool that we're at that point with technology. But that was my tangent for the day.
Interesting.
It's
I bet
really
that's
cool.
easier as an actor to be able to see what's behind you.
Yeah, and then you don't have to like jump from set to set. And with coronavirus, you can record on a set and not have to travel.
That's true. And I mean, it's all the practicalities. I have seen that, watching that show, every time it's a desert planet again, I'm like, stop it. I'm tired of the desert. Give me anything. I started calling him Sando Mando because he's in the desert so much. And then I was talking about it to somebody. I was like, it's another desert planet. They're like, oh, it's Tatooine or whatever. And I was like, not that first episode that's in the desert. That's a different desert planet with not Ewoks, Tusken Raiders?
Tusken Raiders.
Sand people.
Yeah, I was like,
with the sign language.
Yeah, I was like, that's a different desert planet with the same people on it that's doing that. They're everywhere. God help whoever, like, when he finally delivers that baby, he is going to submit an expense report that is going to absolutely cripple the economy of the entire empire because of, like, the gas bill alone. Because every episode, the person's like, okay, cool. Thanks for helping. Can you go to, like, a planet 3 galaxies away or something? I have a first name only. I don't know what city they live in. You should be able to find them, and they'll send you to a new planet after that.
That's great.
I'm ready for that like bureaucracy episode at the end of all of this. Yeah,
He's just
give me the
sitting,
paperwork.
just sitting in Oracle for 40 minutes and just getting really mad as the system crashes. That is the story Kathleen Kennedy is too scared to tell.
Oh boy.
Give me the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian organizing his receipts.
God,
like,
can you think
Yoda? Yeah.
In the most recent, as of recording, the most recent episode, or maybe it's even 2 back. Either way, his ship blows up, and on this note, he's like, man, I'm never like that. All those receipts are gone. I'm never getting like anything back for that like Twix bar I bought the baby 3 planets ago.
Just like
So
he just goes to an H&R Block and he's just sitting there just in front of a fucking Ewok just doing his taxes, just like, where's your receipt for that? It blew up. Yeah, whatever. Just keeps typing.
Is there a giant spider deductible? Because I've got a tale to spin for you.
This is all being told in the past, and he's just sitting there telling his tale, and then they're just like, this is ridiculous. The baby stopped that giant rhinoceros. Yeah.
I promise it happened.
Look, I got a cool little tattoo thing on my armor.
That's why it's there. It was a woolly rhinoceros in the desert. I'm sorry, did you say woolly in the desert? Yeah. It's got all that fur to protect it from the harsh cold of the desert.
Oh my gosh.
I did have a thought on the homebrew thing.
Yes.
Triggered a memory. So you mentioned like the band class.
Yes.
And I think that is like that's the double-edged sword of homebrew, because homebrew can be great for a DM, especially with magic. If it's like big bad evil guy magic that's like rituals and stuff, it's always great to have homebrew, because then it's like, oh, you gotta. There's nothing in the books that are like, yeah, and there's 6 crystals, and if they break each one of those, the teleport fails or whatever. But you can create those situations, and making up your own magic items is fun, and it gives you the ability to like control and change things so that everything flows well and all that stuff. Besides, I mean, just like the novelty of having something new, especially if the characters are not supposed to know something, like if you're homebrewing creatures, because it's like, do you want to play Dracula where it's like, ooh, we're fighting vampires, Curse of Strahd, or do you want to play Dracula as in the characters from Dracula where they don't know what a vampire is, and so you're changing all these little details so that they don't know it's a troll and they have to use fire?
Yeah.
Because if you have players that have played too long. But the other side of that is when players homebrew, and that's like a headache, because if it's all of a sudden creating the obligation, which, I mean, it's not saying that the DM's homebrew is not going to give anybody a headache.
Yeah.
Like, no one's perfect, but like, it's like, okay, you've made this homebrew class. Now this is going to be something I'm going to have to keep track of and make sure it's balanced so that all the other players don't feel absolutely useless as your like 6'7" homebrew rock giant is casting fireball in the shape of a deer in your homebrew class. Like, it's a lot to manage on top of all of the other book knowledge that you're supposed to do. It's just this additional thing of like, okay, well, this character they've made, I haven't had time to play test this with 100 different people at a convention, like Wizards of the Coast might. So it's just always that thing of like, man, I want to let you do what you want to do, but I also don't want to create a situation down the road where I'm like, God, I want to kill this character so bad. I'm just going to get a rock and kill it. Just like throw a huge rock down a mountain at it.
Oh boy.
And that's difficult, because I do feel like even on like the DnD subreddits and forums on the internet, like somebody starts like, help, I need assistance as a new DM. I have a player that wants to do this homebrew. And there's like a collective sigh from everyone in the comments. Or they're like, what's your character's name? And they're like, Goku. Character's name is Goku and his hair's sticking straight up, and people are like, oh. Because like on the other side of it, oh, like this homebrew is just not balanced. This homebrew is lifting something from another property, whether you're just naming your character Goku or you're just like, I want to be a Jedi, but in D&D.
Yeah.
But I do think that gets a bad rap, because people do discourage that. They don't like that of like, oh, you've just taken this anime or this, as I said before, like something a random detail from a book, but you're like, oh, my character's name is Goku, everybody sighs. But if you walk up to those same people and they're like, hey, I have Skyrim and I've just spent 20 hours modding Thomas the Tank Engine into being the dragon model, it's like thunderous applause as they're like, that's genius. I want to see Thomas the Tank Engine breathe fire at me.
Yeah, it's just, I do like that, but also I'm the one that has to make sure that everyone's having fun, and they have this. That's why, character creation is so structured for the most part, because everyone is trying to be on the same plateau as everybody else. And sometimes magic items will kind of sway that here and there, but I mean, it's the DM's job to kind of balance all that out and to create something all together, all new. I think that is something that I'm very interested in. One of the guys I'm considering making a homebrew. I don't know yet. It's a lot of work to make a homebrew and work with him and everything, because he had a
homebrew class.
Yeah, a shadow sorcerer, but he's kind of put this kind of void on himself where he can't have any spells that emit light. So that means that sometimes there's situations where he feels like he can't do anything. And I'm like, I could help you, but also you've put this restriction on you that's not necessary. So like, there's part of me that like thinks like, this is your own fault, but also part of me is like, what if I could figure it out? And on good days, yeah, of course I want to figure it out. And on bad days, I'm like, fuck this, fuck everything. I'm trying to play a game with everybody. you know, there's
Yeah,
just
because that's on top of like a frustration of like I don't have every ability for every class memorized. So you're like sitting there going, "Oh, I'm trying to help you have fun with your homebrew." Meanwhile, somebody's whipping out some stock standard cleric ability that you don't know about that completely demolishes your entire story for the day because they have like cast at will to understand languages or something.
oh, that's happened. He had a circle of something that stopped. I want to say out of the 6 new like cool guys that I kind of created from the dead corpses of people who joined and left the game. They were all trapped in that circle, and then I had only 2 people to play with, and then yeah, they just annihilated because they were stuck in a circle and they were just like shooting range spells, and it was just like, well, these guys have fireball. I'm like, oh no, like I made one of them a time bomb, and it blew up everything. So that
Which
was
I mean,
fun.
can sometimes the unplanned things are fun.
Yeah. You just gotta figure out how to do it. I've homebrewed that vampires can fly because I think that's cool, and I think that's something Strahd.
I Sorry, go on. I was just gonna straight up interrupt you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Strahd should have cool powers and shit, and I think it should be. It's scary to not hear footsteps behind you, and you just kind of hear the wind blow a little, and then they're on you.
It, exactly. It was not. I maybe 2 sessions ago. I mean, we've been on a little bit of hiatus because of random COVID things. But they had decided they wanted to do Gothic horror. I had had a vampire, and I had, they came out of the hotel, and a body just falls out of the sky with puncture wounds, and like I hadn't looked at they weren't gonna encounter the vampire for a while, so I hadn't looked at the stat block for 5e vampires. But one of them had. And they're like, "Where did the body come from?" I was like, "The sky." And they're like, "Vampires can't fly." I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" I just assumed, like, I was just like, "Vampires fly."
Yeah.
That's a standard one. Luckily, somebody like it didn't even occur to me, but one of the girls at the table was like, "Well, they can have a broom or like the fly spell. It's not that high of a level caster spell." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's totally what was happening."
Yeah, no, I've just innately made them be able to fly. I'm like, vampire. There's one character who's like literally like he knows. I know all of vampire lore. We should do this, this, and this. And I'm like, that's fucked. But okay, you've been in the Shadowfell. You put that in your backstory. That's fine. But you only get X amount of characters left in your repertoire of knowledge because like I don't. It's unfair to all the other players who are like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Like, oh wow, this is the first time to be like lectured by one character. It's like, yeah, that's a zombie. You want to cut the head off and smash the brain. You know, and that unfair kind of balance of like, you definitely know that they've read that book about all the cool evil things, you know, but like,
Hmm.
how does that information totally kind of like transfer to their player character, and like how much information do they know and they get to know because they're from this kind of place? Because it's unfair to everybody else who's just like, I'm gonna do this save or I'm gonna do this check, and this guy's like, I already know it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is the last character you get that run on, okay? And the rest you gotta roll.
I mean, it could be a good role playing moment of like, yeah, in character, tell them what you know. But I think no matter how like even for myself, I probably have the same issue of like how much you're like, oh well, I'm not metagaming. It's like they'll have like an encyclopedic knowledge of vampires, but it's like if you lived here, you would have that combined with like old wives' tales. Ooh,
Exactly.
that's what you should have done. How does it like knowledge of vampires locally have some superstitions that were completely false? Like, oh, if you put like take one of the tropey ones of like, oh, garlic or something, like that they're 100% convinced in because they're a local and they feel like it works, even if
Mm-hmm.
they don't have definitive proof. That could kind of limit a little bit, I guess, introduce a little bit of chaos
Oh no,
without
yeah.
completely invalidating the backstory they've created for themselves.
You know what? That's some good ideas. I like that a lot. They've used garlic. Thing is, I've made it that he's not like dying, but he's just like allergic to it a little, so he just gets sneezy. Uh,
But yeah,
so
I'm
That
saying
just sounds
like
so cute.
if they're not gonna roll and they're just gonna use their local knowledge, just start telling them some slightly off information.
that sounds good. I mean that's a solution that I should be starting to attempt to implement.
If you ever get frustrated, just remember that I did Curse of Strahd once as a player, and instead of doing anything logical, when we figured out someone was going to get kidnapped, I, as a wizard with Mold Earth, which is like my favorite spell in the entire book. It's the best spell. It's the most powerful spell, and I can't be convinced otherwise. There was like a 3-story manor that they lived in, and I just literally turned it into a bunker because you can cast it every 6 seconds, and it's a 5 by 5 foot square block of dirt. And so I just built up a dirt mound on every side of the building so you could only enter from the roof. And I was like, come at us, werewolves. We're underground now.
That's awesome. Did I ever play with you as a player?
I don't know. You said we did, but I can't remember.
I don't think
If we actually were in the, because it would only have been Sterling that was DMing if you did.
I think maybe Sterling DM'd once, I think.
But I avoid like internet discussions of spells at all costs because the entire fun of D&D for me as a player is to pick spells out of the D&D book and just sit down and go, okay, now how do I make this ridiculous? And one of the first ones, Mold Earth, I was like, there's so many applications bringing a 5 foot square out of the ground. One of the first things I did with it, which granted the DM nullified almost entirely, which I get why it's a cantrip, but a 5 by 5 cube of dirt, you can move it within 5 feet, and it was underneath this guy. And it's, I don't want to look up the math right now, but it's like 8,000 pounds or something, that much dirt. I mean, I have to take OSHA training every once in a while, and they talk about how heavy dirt is that you don't expect. And so he's like, okay, where are you moving the dirt? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to move it up. And he was like, what? And I was like, just up. And he was like, it's just going to fall back down. I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to be underneath the guy. So just in one turn, Mold Earth underneath someone's feet, all of a sudden they fall into the pit left, and then the dirt, like gravity goes back onto it, and it piles 8,000 pounds of dirt on top of the enemy, which is insane as a cantrip for a first level character. That's a career ender for mostly anyone.
That's fun. See, this is I'm just getting all this nostalgia from back in college and shit. Now I'm here.
I'll guest play on your session and absolutely ruin anything you had planned. So that'll break the nostalgia. You'll be like, you know what? This is annoying. Can't have nothing nice.
Oh my gosh, maybe I'll consider it.
No, I mostly said, I mean, I'll do it. It could be fun. But I am saying I will try to mess with you for fun.
Yeah, no, I know you. It'll probably be me versus you, and then my player's just like, what's going on? And hopefully you can get them on board.
Who is this craved lunatic, and why is he digging with magic?
You see, you gotta get to the bones first. Okay.
God, I can make an archaeologist character. He just uses that.
This is for work, I swear. You just play on your lunch break.
I'm doing research.
Oh, man. Alex, I know this has just been me riffing about my past, so I'm sorry.
No.
So, sorry, go. No, you had something. Go.
Hold on.
I'm buckled in. I'm ready.
I was going in my head, and I was like, okay, like, we've talked about a lot, so what would be a lot of fun to do with, like, groups? And so you said one campaign, 2 different groups going 2 different ways. What if you then pinned each group on each other? So then one group is doing like one side of things, and then you take that information and you go to the second group, and like that's what they're dealing with, whatever mishap each one is doing. So
man. So at first I was like, oh, we've thought about this before, because various players, because they know the other group exists, they're aware of the other woman. You know? The comment that I keep getting is like, what if we fought each other? Which, I mean, that could be fun, though. Like, one of them it's going to be a TPK for one side, but the thing you just said is a much better idea. Make the consequences of the first player's actions affect how the story is panning out for the other.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, because it's more indirect, and so you don't actually have to DM 10 people cutthroat stabbing each other to death.
No,
In a
you do one rough outline. I mean, maybe just like a concept. You don't even, I mean, is that really lazy DMing? Is that what we're doing? Just like super lazy. Here's the idea, and then one person's or one group starts it, and then it just like bounce back and forth. And how much of it, I guess, maybe do you actually have to plan?
I mean, I don't plan a whole lot anyways. Like I do have the general outline. I'm like, this is the bad guy. This is the plan. This is what they've done. This is where they are. Like I know that things. I know the things I want to hit them with during campaign. But like most of recently in the Gothic campaign, at some point they're like, let's go to the bathhouse. And I'm sitting there going, I don't have a bathhouse prepared, but let's go. So like I feel like it's often like a rough outline to begin with. So it would be very doable. Just get a rough outline and then let them go for it. Like especially if I explain to them like okay, it would have to be like the enemy side first, like the evil side first of like, okay, you're opening up this winter portal here to turn this place into ice. How are you going to defend it? What would you set up? What are you doing to the locals, you know? And just have each other, they would each be antagonists to each other's groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a way to make it go back the other direction so that the group that's playing the evil side would see the good side, but
If like one session just drops, and because it seems like it's like a call and response, and one group is always responding to the other. So how do you make it so that it's the other way, where like somehow the one that's always been responding does a preemptive action and then is able to kind of, then it's them being calling the shots, and then the evil guy is responding, and how's that work out? And is this
yeah,
just
I don't.
forever?
Yeah, especially if it's like, okay, and we're stuck in the, the desert with the Mandalorian for an eternity. Because there's just nothing but the same desert because they're just yo-yoing back and forth between who's winning this part. Which, I mean, I think there's like a certain set of people right now that are just like, yes, that is exactly what I want. Until we finally have a definitive victory. I say that it would then, like if it was a back and forth thing, they would just encounter each other in the first bar and it would just turn into an all-out stab fest. And just it would be over in his session as they just went for it.
God, that'd be
Oh,
crazy but cool.
I do like it. But it has been, as a DM, it was extremely helpful. One, time-wise, because I have a life outside of D&D and I've got other things going on. So like planning a lot of sessions in any sort of detail so it's enjoyable for people is rough. It takes a lot to prepare, your monsters and get your maps. I've bought 2 different mapping softwares and could go on forever about pros and cons, but like I end up using them to like, oh, I'm gonna make this little map. Oh, let's put a tree here, and so I spent all that time on that. And so it's just like being able to play the same campaign with 2 different groups cuts down on that, but also has taught me so much about like, man, that session went really like things went sideways fast. And so when it went to the next session, because random people like at random times one group would pause for a week, I was able to a lot of times go, okay, that went bad. How do I change that to make it go better? And I was actually able to, instead of going, I should remember as a vague rule to not open-endedly ask them how they would like to perform a coup. I was able to go, hey, that coup didn't work. Maybe I'll give them this and I can actually implement and see how the next party handles it.
Yeah, I've tried to play 2 sessions back to back, but I sometimes would get the information they learned from the other group, and I'm like, well, don't you have this? They're like, no, Adrian, we don't know what the hell that is. And I'm like, oh, it's nothing.
I did have that because I'd be like, okay, so what? I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, who is that? And I was like, oh, right. Because there's a set of twins that is supposed to be, it was like back when I was using some of the modules, there's a set of twins that show up that are just like connected to like the children of a random character, but I made them join along for the campaign because I thought they were fun to have like twin 15-year-olds trying to stay alive amongst the party. And one group hated the twerps, got one of them killed, like the mom and the other twin went off, but the other group, they're 5 levels past on the other side of the planet and have both twins with them. So I constantly remember, I'm like, oh, what's, Muley doing while y'all are doing this? And they're like, Well, he's dead.
Rotting in the ground.
Yeah, I don't think he's got a lot of time on his hands these days, I think.
He's been dead 13 sessions ago.
It's a ghost.
uh,
Oh, that does remind me of a homebrew, like a situation I created with those twins that like, it was just like random NPCs that since they became characters, I was like, let's do something with them. So I turned one of them into like I like war and I want to like help stab things. And so he's like very gung ho in battle. And he's very slowly, incrementally been acting more and more violent. And I'm waiting for one of the players to realize that he's young and needs guidance, or he's going to be a wackadoodle by the end of this all. But the other ones, I'm like, this one's going to be like the frail, smart one that has like seizures. And so I started having him have seizures at random times, and like crazy stuff would happen. And at first, it happened, and I think I had him when he had a seizure, he possessed the enemy that was about to kill one of the other characters. But they never knew what happened. And then there was another session where he was about to get hurt, and but a lot of the players were somewhere else, and he went into a seizure and then possessed one of the player characters, and I sent them side messages like, oh, like, this is what's happening, and like you black out, and then you show up, and you're like, saving this kid from yada yada yada. And so for it, probably because playing got infrequent there for a while, it was probably like maybe 7 months of at random every night when they went to sleep, they would have this dream in a very abstract world. Like it was just like it's just everything's like smears of colors, and they just kept insta dying. Like I was like, there's this swirl of colors coming at you, when it touched them, it killed them instantly. And so they were dying over and over and over in their sleep. And slowly, like shapes started to coalesce. They started to move around and figure out what was near them in this weird abstract world where they couldn't like see like do anything. Like occasionally, like, oh, a slice appears on your arm, and they would figure out that there's actually someone near them attacking them. And so they Groundhog Day this encounter over and over and over. And then very, very recently, they get to the final boss room of something. And I had introduced a thing where I played a noise through Roll20 at the beginning of each of their dream sequences. They didn't know what the noise was. It was like a random breaking sound. And so they're in the room with the big bad. The big bad's like monologuing or something. And a servant trips in the room, and like everything he's holding clatters to the ground. And I play the sound and had them like realize that the thing that they had been doing over and over and over was this exact fight. And that the missiles that were about to come out of the big bad were going to be insta kills. But instead of having them like, oh, this is going, like, oh, we know what to do now, it was entirely a cutscene almost for like 5 minutes of me explaining the insane feats that they were doing because they had dodged that sword swing 700 times by then. And so they just like absolutely whooped ass through this room and took down the big bad, who by all rights should have murdered them all, because this little kid had them possess their future selves over and over and over every night. It was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. I love it. It's amazing.
I was very proud of that one.
Pat yourself on
I
the
think
back.
it really needs some refining, but the core of it was quite fun.
That is a really fucking cool way to do that, of getting them to work on something and they don't know what they're working on, and then magically they are like doing it super well, and then using it as a cutscene versus making them roll and actually play it out because they've already played it out.
Yeah, they've experienced any joy they're gonna get out of like diving under that table again.
Yeah.
And I asked him afterwards, I was like, was that anticlimactic to get to the top of the tower and then like the battle was just over? And it ended up being well received, which I was happy, because I got super nervous and I was like, man, this is gonna be really anticlimactic if it's just a cutscene. But I guess they got to feel like badasses because they were doing it a while. And that was a lot of deaths, because again, they did it a lot. Anytime they slept or they all got knocked out, I did it to them. And so it took them forever to find out, like, oh, I'm feeling round. Oh, there's a flat surface. I can go under it. I can go above it. And I had an Excel sheet of each turn and what direction they went. Like I was like, tell me cardinal directions, which direction you move.
that would also be a really interesting way to create, like, I don't know what the word is, whatever the opposite of ableism is, right? To have them deal with their surroundings with their senses that aren't necessarily seeing, or maybe they can't talk, or maybe something else is different where, you know, they've got to now navigate this new world. Maybe they are blind, but they can't see. That means they can't metagame, they can't do anything. Like, that's really cool. I kind of just want to blind all of my characters and then make them do the thing.
I feel like I want to implement this now somehow. But yeah.
Just cut it out of the podcast and none of your players know what's going to happen.
Most of
Well, my players are my family, so my family doesn't listen to this podcast.
my players, I give them strict rules what they can and cannot listen to.
Ah, that's smart. That's smart.
There's one guy that's always listening. He's like, "Is this one okay? Is this one Strahd free?" And I'm like, yeah, no, maybe it is. It's always
None
changes.
of them are Strahd free.
Look, okay, I say Strahd because it's my only concurrent game right now. Okay, minus Kelsey Dion's little one shots, which I've been playing with as well. But other than that,
I've refrained from saying things for my future campaigns because I am gonna I'm definitely gonna whenever this pops out, share it with everyone. Try to I can spread it amongst my Facebook and players and stuff. Like, hey, you should go listen to this podcast. It's great. Helps you guys, but also I don't want to say, hey, I was on this podcast. None of you can listen to it that play D&D with me because it will ruin your stories. I've only done stuff that's happened to them.
Heard. Not smart.
I made one comment earlier that if they were paying attention,
they're gonna scrub now.
may make them realize something, but
now they're gonna go back and re-listen.
Hey, if it really drills it into their head, hey, I've listened to this 5 hours piecing together the puzzle he laid out for me, and now they're just by habit listening to your podcast. I think that's a success. I may have just created somebody with a mental illness and some sort of OCD compulsion to play audio to calm themselves, but I think sacrifices have to be made.
You just what if I listen to it in reverse? The hint will be there.
Listen here. He's saying it's in the woods, but backwards. Just strings and papers all over their wall.
Pepe Sylvia. Pepe Sylvia.
That's going to be very hard for movie makers in the future to show how a character is going insane on down a conspiracy theory path, because people are going to stop using papers and strings at some point. And it's look at this Excel sheet I've made. We didn't hear anything Homebrew Alex has done. You have to have had something that was going on that you're like, this is not at all what I planned, but I'm just going to frickin' run with this.
Yeah, Alex, dive deep.
I don't. So to remind, I guess, everybody here, I am a brand new DM. I started DMing not very, start of quarantine, so July, and I haven't played since October because of life. So there is all of that, but I'm not homebrewed. I'm not there yet. I know. I got a lot of stuff going on. There's my excuse. I'm an adult.
Use homebrew as an excuse for when you mess up. Be like, oh, this creature's doing this. It's homebrew. Yeah. I'm not wrong about what this stat block looks like or what it's weak to. It's different because I've edited it.
Yeah, I'm using somebody else's homebrew. So the campaign I pulled from the internet from my free resources, somebody else created. Wasn't like a Wizards of the Coast, but it's definitely lackluster. It's just, going from dungeon to dungeon and killing the things, and there's not really an actual story, which I'm attempting to put an actual story. I've given them a lot of clues, but I don't know what the clues lead to. So my characters have
the J.J. Abrams method.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they can. They have some letters, some mail that they have found. They have a key. They have let a couple of bad guys go, and so I'm definitely going to bring them back to haunt. And they had a charmed person that they thought would be friends forever, but friends forever and charmed person don't work. So I'm ready to figure out where all those things need to go. Basically, I'm just hoping that later Alex and procrastination will help me create a good campaign for
Wait, so
my.
you thought Charm Person would last forever and it ruined things?
They thought Charm Person.
Uh,
They charmed
oh.
Person. They had this whole thing, and then they let him go, and it was a bad guy. So
The one that got away.
The one that got away. They've got a couple of them that got away, but there's a couple. I for sure I'm gonna use the one. I think when they get back to town, they're gonna find out that their fuckery has led to real consequences.
And is that part of the story?
There was no story. There was just like, hey, you need to go get these guys.
So you're telling me you lied when you said you've never homebrewed?
Okay, well, look.
Because that's homebrewing right there. That's
improvising. I haven't
homebrew.
done
That's
anything else.
homebrewing.
I mean, brewing on the spot counts.
Okay, then I'm really good at improv, and evidently we're gonna extend improv to homebrew. So yes, I'm a master. Fuck you guys. Taking over the podcast now.
And see, now I'm now hearing your side of like, man, the chickens are gonna come home to roost on my flares, and I'm about to teach them a world of pain. Mom, buckle up, because I'm putting your character in an extra dimension with a demon.
Now, that's why I said I was very interested in seeing how your campaigns go, and I would absolutely love to play with you as a player character, because I just would. I don't. Is that a like a? You know what? We're not going to go there. I went there in my brain, but we're not going to go there. I would just like to see that relation.
Well, now it feels like a tease. I told you I was buckled up. I'm ready for whatever journey's happening.
It was just like a submissive moment. Like, oh, I'm just gonna, whatever you want to do, it'll be my consent. We'll have a safe word and let's go. Like, I'm here for whatever needs to happen. So
yes. The explicit tag.
Goes back to the sex every time.
It always ends on some sexual thing. Okay.
It started on the sexual thing. That's okay. Adrian.
What?
Most recent ex, yes.
Yes.
I'm about to put you on blast.
Probably.
The most recent ex is definitely from Canada and definitely made up. Like. Yeah.
No, she's real.
Mental representation that I have for Adrian's exes, just from Canada, not real.
Yeah, no, that was an ongoing joke in academia. She's like, yeah, whatever.
In academia.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up, yeah? Before we go out of control.
Tanner, where can we find you on the internet if anybody wants to find you on the internet?
Oh, gosh. Do I want to be found?
You don't have to be.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to plug or not plug, so it's your decision.
Wait. God. Man, that was a delayed reaction for me to really like come up to speed on what had happened there.
It's the married life. You're a little tamer now.
It's taken me a while. Yeah, so I guess I'm starting to add more designs to my Redbubble of glyphs, where you take I've taken various words and chop them up into their, like, take all the letters and you chop them up into the various shapes, and then you recombine them into a magic-y looking symbol for D&D characters and stuff. And I've done it for some of my friends. I burned it into leather for my friends and added it to bags as wedding party gifts, because I'm a big old nerd and we got married at a Renaissance fair. Anyway, so on Redbubble, I've got a bunch of glyphs for D&D characters under Leah Vargas, which is a made-up word, but it's spelled Lievargus. And yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it.
Look at how his voice has just dropped to just this, it's just my little thing. I don't know if I want to tell you. And before he was just like, I start
feeling really awkward when it gets like pointed back at me, and so I start getting all timid and be like, oh, I guess if you want to. But I don't know. That's mostly my internet presence right now, besides random stuff. But I guess if somebody has an actual question for me, they can just tweet at you guys and it can come along the grapevine.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
gotcha.
Now you're gonna get like somebody tweeting you like, hey, teach me how to punish.
Teach me how to be bad, Daddy.
Oh God.
I can't wait to edit this. Okay. All right, Alex.
Thank you, Tanner, for joining us. Thank you all for listening. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at DnDegreesPod. Follow and subscribe us wherever you can find podcasts. Help us grow our listenership. Recommend us to a friend or family. Rate us 5 stars wherever you can rate 5 stars on podcasts. Don't rate any below that. Otherwise, nobody will use your safe word.
Give your players bonus XP for answering pop quiz questions about this week's episode.
Oh man, that's what we should do. Join us on Patreon. Adrian and I are running one shots. We have swag. We're definitely going to get that started in this new year. So come join all of the fun. We are looking forward to creating new content for you all.
I just finished one shot, and I'm excited to say that I can't wait to make the next one. Thank you for listening in. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
Go have some fun.